Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the FW190 Dora. This is the long nose version. It's also a radial version, and it's also the version that, for those of you looking for a slightly easier Focke-Wulf experience, this is probably going to be the one to check out. The other one is a bit of a handful. So when we climb in this thing, we immediately realize, man, this thing got busy compared to the previous generation. I mean, there's switches and there's lights and there's handles and stuff in the way, but actually this aircraft is relatively simple. Getting started up couldn't be simpler on it. The controls and systems couldn't be simpler. Landing it is, to say the least. But like I said, that's part of the fun. One of the things we'll do differently today, of course, is we'll ask the people to go ahead and put the wheel chocks into position. And you can see right there, bing, they're going to go stick those things on. And that'll make our life a lot simpler there. Thanks, buddy. And that's going to make it much safer for us when, of course, we get this thing going. Getting this thing going, absolute snap. There's really not a lot to do here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by turning on some air. That feels much better, kind of a thing like that. I like that. We're going to come over to our handy-dandy panel. We're going to flip this sucker open. There's our assembler. There's a generator. This switch right here. You can see there's our instrument lights. That's a nice thing to have. Coming up from this point, we have our handy-dandy radios. We're going to get those all fired. I actually don't need to heat up our pitot tube. It's not particularly cold out here, kind of a thing like that. Landing gear, kind of need that. A flaps trimmer, you definitely going to want that. You flip that little switch, and you can hear all sorts of things happening in your airplane. Coming over here, of course, we have this one. We have MW50 now, which gives us a massive boost of power if we need it. Coming over here, we have auxiliary, don't need it. We have rear thump, we need that. Forward, we need that. And of course, navigation lights, we'll turn those on. Here's our starter. I'm just going to pull this out of the way so it's ready to go for when it's time to happen. So I'm going to go center my head again, and I'll come back down on this side, and we'll continue our journey. We have our handy-dandy little radio right here. Its volume's maxed. I love how instead of a button, it's a little click, 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 kind of a thing like that. Keeps it simple. Our throttle, by the way, doesn't move. And the reason it doesn't move is because we have to unlock it by pressing right out home. And as soon as we do that, you'll notice we can now push this all over the place. While we're here, of course, one of the things I like to do is I like to come here and open up the switch. Probably a good idea to keep this thing covered, but I am not following a checklist or anything like that. Coming from here, of course, we have the little handy-dandy controls here. We're going to make sure that's on. Like I said, MW50 is our friend. We can leave it off on the ground if we need to. We're going to turn our magnetos all the way up. I'll come up here. We have our handy-dandy little fuel switch. You'll notice pressure kicks in right away. Again, this thing is optimized for I've got to get going. I don't have time to waste, kind of a thing like that. And now we're ready to start. So get this thing started. Really simple. What we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and we have this handy-dandy little switch, and it's the push-pull kind. So we're going to start by pushing this, and then we're going to pull it to get it cranking. And the way I like to do it is I like to open this a little bit, and then what I like to do is I open up my cowl flaps. I'm going to go stick my head down here so you can see the switch for cowl flaps. It's a little different this time. So I have a switch, and you see a little wheel that just got happy there. If you want to see it a little more clearly, if you look by my nose there, see how I can open up the cowl flaps. So you want to have those things nice and open for this process. Again, just a nice little safety feature here. So here's how it works. We're going to go ahead and center our heads and get everything nice and comfortable. We are going to go ahead and push this button for 20 seconds, and then we're going to go ahead and jam it. So I'm going to go ahead and engage. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and you're going to push it the other way. That's it. Isn't that awesome? I wish everything started that easily. I'm going to do about 1,000 to 1,100 RPM. I'm kind of right in the middle. That looks pretty good there. Whoop. I have to tell our crew chief to take the wheel chocks out. Wheel chocks, put them away.
Remove the wheel chocks.
Thanks, chief. Don't forget to engage your brakes before you do that.
Wheel chocks are now removed.
Ta-da! And you can see this thing is absolutely a snap. Very little challenge. One thing we'll do while we're waiting is we're going to go set our takeoff flaps, and you can see by that little indicator on the wing down there, they're cranking over. It gets a little snappy, but if we wanted to check it, of course, we can look down the side and look at them. And you can see it cracks it just a tiny bit. Now, this aircraft, as in its cousin, the Alpha, or the Anton, not the Alpha, because, Alpha Delta, I don't think so. It's Anton, and of course, it's a Dora. Is same technique here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to look at our little runway here. We're at a slightly different airport. You can see that's sitting there ready to go. So if you pull the stick towards you, you're going to lock the tail wheel. If you push the stick away from you or you center it and don't touch it, it's going to go ahead and leave the tail wheel in kind of the neutral position. So what I like to do is zoom out quite a bit here. I'm going to go pull this towards me. I'm going to release the brakes. Now, this aircraft is kind of different. And one of the things I'm actually going to do is I'm going to slam the radiator closed here. And I just want to give it a little more time to warm up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and push this forward like that. Give it just a little bit of power. And then I'm going to go ahead and tap my brakes here. Now, unlike the other German planes that we've experimented with, the brakes on this thing are just not user-friendly. And you can see I have to kind of milk the brake on the side there. If I push that forward, that'll disengage that tail wheel lock. Come on. Again, we have to be careful here. We have a pretty cold engine. There we go. Nice. Give it a little push. Very, very different than the Anton, that is for sure. And you can see there, with sticking the stick forward a little bit, it does not take any breakage at all to basically send you flying here. And I'm not a big fan of that. Notice the wheel is completely jammed. I'm at 2,000 RPM, but we're not moving. See that? Like I said, it's a little different than its cousin there. You have to, it's almost a heavier plane. Of course, once it does get going, you got to be careful because it'll run away on you. And again, a little bit of braking action. You saw how much effort it took to get this thing to go boing and basically bounce that way. And again, I'm not doing anything with the stick right now because I needed to take this relatively short turn. Come on. Notice my coolant is already up to temperature. Pull the stick towards me, and what that will do is that will lock the tail wheel. Nice. Delightful. And now we can enjoy our nice, relaxing ride over to the runway, BD Airport here. Nice. Very easy to handle. Going up on the grass. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and slam open the radiators. We're nice and warmed up now. Completely on the snow, or the grass, or the sand. That's all good. No big deal. Feel the power. Stick towards me. And world's most aggressive left turn. Go. You can see how very, very rumbly this airplane is. There we go. Nice. Success. All right. There we go. Easy on the brakes. Okay. So that was a process. Much easier with differential brakes, which I don't have. All right, so a couple little things we're going to check real quickly here. We're pretty much ready to go. We're going to take a look and get our kind of navigational data all set up here. Our desired heading, of course, if I go ahead and switch to my F10 page, I'll zoom out a little bit. We're going to be taking a pretty short flight today. Again, we're going to go to Payhout Mesa, which is a little tiny airport. Again, we just need a general heading here. It's one of the nice things here. I can grab it real fast. Go ahead and drag that like that. It looks like a 4.6 magnetic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to crank this thing over to 4.6 magnetic, just like that. I'm also going to come over here and I'm going to unlock our HSI here. And to do that, I just kind of crank it from the outside until you do one of those things and accidentally push the wrong button there. There we go. And now we're ready for takeoff. So we've got everything set trim-wise. We don't have to fits with the trim or anything along those lines. Fun time, of course. You can push the buttons and have some fun with that, but I'm not going to mess with that too much. Big thing is just make sure your controls are good. Make sure your flaps are set. This plane does not like a flapless takeoff. So this one is a little weird. And one of the things I like to check before takeoff here is just to make sure that my governor is behaving here. So give it a little bit of power just to kind of feel what it wants to do, sort of a thing. The easiest way to get this thing safely in the air, by the way, is you're looking at basically about 3,000 RPM. You can go up to 3,300, but it gets a little more interesting to take off. So we're going to go ahead and take this stick and we're going to pull it towards ourselves just like that. We're going to go ahead and slowly apply the power. Make sure our cowl flaps are in the open position, and you're just going to basically push us through. Again, I like to go slow during takeoff. Your rudder's not going to do anything for about the first 50 feet here. And there we go. Nice and easy. We're just going to relieve on the power. And again, we're going to try to get this plane not flying until it's time to fly. I know it wants to get airborne, but if we let it do it now, we're going to end up departing right off the end of the runway. So what I like to do is just kind of let the plane fly off the ground on its own. Once we're in the air, we'll go ahead and bring up the flaps. We'll go ahead and bring up the gear once we get a little bit of room underneath us. Gear coming up next. Flaps coming up. And we are safe. As soon as we get up in the air, it's a good time to reduce power. We don't need nearly this much at this time. Bring it down a little bit. That's about 2,800. We want to come down just a little bit. So that's going to give us plenty. About a 1.35 ATA here. And that's it. Our aircraft gets up in the air just like that. And if we want to make sure everything works, we can give that a squeeze, which it does. And we are on our way once again. Again, a little bit different than the Anton. The Anton is quite a handful. Quite a handful. So now that we're in the air, we're going to start making our way towards our destination here. I'm going to go ahead and close up my flaps just a little bit. One of the things that's really tough is you can't really see your cow flaps well. If you go on the outside, you can kind of see it setting they're at. And just like our previous aircraft with this particular model, the FW190, you can just do about half flaps. That's generally pretty darn safe. So I'm going to go ahead and take a nice gentle right turn here. We're going to start making our way about, like I said, our 46 magnetic heading there, keeping it nice and easy. This plane feels heavier than its cousins. It's definitely not as twitchy, which is kind of a good thing. But at the same token, it's different. It's different. This is much more of a high-altitude plane than some of its alternatives as well. So as we climb, of course, I'm just looking over on my left. We're doing about 350 kilometers per hour. That's a little fast. We can climb basically between 270 and 300 kilometers per hour. It's going to get you going pretty darn quick without too much issue here. The engine does not require a lot of babysitting. That's kind of the nice thing. You're always kind of keeping an eye on what your temperatures are. Looking right now, I can see that sucker is getting a little warm. I'm actually going to slam my cow flaps all the way open here. And you can see the difference in temperature is almost instantaneous. You can see I've lost that much temperature almost immediately. So I'm actually going to cut them close just a little bit. And there we go. That's much better. And you can see just how the big blast of heat basically went flying out the back of the aircraft there, just to give you an idea of how quickly that warms up. And it's just kind of one of those things that makes it a little bit interesting here. So I'm going to go ahead and take myself a nice gentle turn and get a little bit of altitude, and we'll start putting this aircraft a little bit through its paces. It's kind of heading, like I said, roughly on that heading. Keep in mind when we're climbing, my gyros aren't going to read as accurately. That's kind of part of the fun, I guess they say. Pretty good. Now we can take a look at our F10 map, and you can see we're pretty much on course. So we definitely need to come left just a little bit more here. It's such a slick-looking plane. Now, this is definitely a great VR flyer. And if I look at the bottom left, you see my coolant's down about 75 C. We've cooled down quite substantially there. The oil's still a little warm, though. I'm going to kind of give the oil a check-in to kind of cool off. I'm going to zoom my head out just a bit and look kind of out the window here. Delightful. And you can see it's just so much airplane, this particular one. And again, 350, climbing pretty good. We do have pitch trim. We do not have aileron trim. We do not have rudder trim. We can set those on the ground, but we can't do anything. And you can see we're more or less on course. When I look over on my right, see how the little mini airplanes facing more or less in the direction that I want to travel. Keep in mind, like I was saying, that's not going to be accurate. If you have slip, it's not going to be accurate if you're climbing. It is definitely not going to be accurate if you're banked in any way. So if I actually level this plane off like this, you can see that we're indicating exactly the correct direction. The other thing you're probably observing is that the aircraft indicates that we're taking a left turn. Actually, a right turn. I take it back. Part of the fun. Part of the fun. Whoop, we just crossed our limit there. Our supercharger changed modes. You can see that did that automatically. All we need to do is just kind of keep an eye on it. Again, it's a pretty good climb, about 1.3, 1.4. That usually keeps us pretty cool. I'm going to go close up the cow flaps a little tiny bit there. Coolant's getting a little cool. It's all right, though. There we go. And of course, now that we've gotten a little higher, we can take advantage of our MW50. MW50 is, it is one heck of a kick. When you turn that stuff on, it is going to get you moving pretty darn fast here. And we'll explore that in just a moment once I get a little bit more altitude underneath me here. I don't want to be getting too much. One of the things I find really interesting here is just how much fuel I've used already. It's a lot. And it's it's just different. It's just different. It will get you there eventually, but it's not necessarily going to do it easily. There we go. Let's go ahead and level off here. We're about 3.3 kilometers up. It's plenty. And again, that's going to get us going. So we're going to go take advantage of the MW50 first. But before I do that, I'm just going to adjust my feet a little bit here, make it a little easier to do some of our maneuvers. And the temperature's still pretty warm here. I'm going to crack everything open. There we go. I like that. So the MW50 is automatic. If you have all the breakers and the switches on, all you do is you push your throttle past the kind of middle point, and what will happen is it'll kick in automatically. There it is! Oh, yeah! Whoa! Now that's what I call acceleration. You get a 2-minute limit, by the way. But that's okay. I don't need 2 minutes. I just needed a little bit to get over 450 here. Nice. Wow. Wow. That is one heck of the need for speed there. That gets you going. That gets you going. So we're going to do a couple of maneuvers, very similar to the ones we've done in the other World War II aircraft, kind of giving you an idea of sort of the differences in handling here. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. Again, make sure you coordinate your turns here. So when we turn, we're just going to go ahead and push my right foot just a tiny bit forward, and we're just going to gently increase the pressure here. Now, this aircraft's got a little bit longer of a nose, it's got a little bit more power, and we hit this at a much higher speed. So as my wind-up turn continues, oh boy, it's going to want to pull to the left. There it goes. Release the controls, and you can see that it comes out on its own. Again, I didn't have to fight that. It did its own little piece there. I'm going to build up a little bit of speed. You can see there that we lost literally about 150 kilometers per hour that quickly. We'll cheat a little tiny bit here. Wait for it. Isn't this great? I feel so bad for this engine. Sorry. There we go. Sorry, that was rude. Close the cowl flaps a little bit there. Give it a couple quick taps. All right, so now we're going to do it to the left. I want you to observe what happens when we start getting to party there. There we go. Go ahead and start pulling that in now. All right, whoa, perfectly cool. Whoa! And you can see it wants to depart to the left there. And that works okay in a left turn. It's a little bit harder in a right turn. So it's just one of those things you always want to kind of be mindful of. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and set kind of cruise power here, and I'll get myself all nice and leveled off. We'll continue kind of making our way left. Our airport that we're going to is just a little bit off there. Now, a couple more maneuvers we're going to experiment with, too. We're going to do a couple vertical maneuvers here to kind of show you sort of the differences as far as the aircraft goes. In the vertical, this aircraft... you've got the climb for it, but you don't have the sustain, and you'll see what I mean. It just bleeds so much energy in a climb. I'm not a climb, any sort of vertical kind of loops or anything like that. Just kind of squaring myself off here, making sure we're okay. We're a little off to the north. That's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to build up some speed here. Just like that. Takes just a moment. There's 450. What I'm going to do is I'm going to help it out a little bit. The controls are going to get very stiff. There we go. Going to get about 500. That's a little quick for us. And we're just going to go right over the top. And notice, without any warning, it just comes right out from underneath you. I'm going to let this aircraft kind of tumble and roll on its own. And there's the flat spin. All right, we're just going to recover. Aileron's neutral. Just like that. Just like that. Nice. Good recovery. Good recovery. Now, notice this aircraft did not tolerate that. It does not have that capability to easily pull vertical flips like that. Maybe at 700 kilometers an hour we could do that, but that would have been from a very long dive. And that, again, is kind of the nature of these beasts, no matter how quick you are with your feet, kind of a thing like that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and close up the cowl flaps. We're pretty warm right now. And we're going to go ahead and execute a split S, which is a little bit more pleasant. So again, taking what we know, we're going to go ahead and flip ourselves upside down. And we're just going to give it a tug, and we're going to reduce power as we kind of give it the tug. That's it. That's as much tug as we get. No more. No more. Notice that our fuel tank light started flashing on us. So this aircraft can pull them, but you could see just the tremendous amount of power. And you also probably observe how little I'm turning the actual airplane. You know, I'm not snap rolling or anything along those lines in this plane. I'm keeping everything very, very gentle. Kind of I think of that air show quality where everything seems to be on rails. That's what you're trying to achieve with this airplane. Just making sure we're on course here. Got to come to my right a little bit. And it's just so different. And when you're first learning any airplane like this, look out! It's really, really important that you can go ahead and fly it smoothly. Pretend you're on rails whenever you're doing any form of aerobatics. I'm going to go ahead and close up the radiators a little bit. They're pretty clean. I think I've got them all the way closed right now. I really wish there was a radiator indicator. I'm going to open up a little bit. That's good enough. Open up just a touch. There we go. 75 is fine. Nice. All right, I'm going to go ahead and reduce to our cruise power, which is about 1.25 out of there. Looks pretty good. Give it just a couple taps real quickly. And we are once again on our way. Like I said, not too bad. Navigation on this thing, like I say, we have no fancy instruments or anything like that. It's really kind of a matter of what are we going to do in order to get this thing to its destination. All right, looks pretty good to me. And we can get ready to get this thing on the ground. Now, one of the nice things about this plane is they did take the time. If you've flown the Anton quite a bit, you basically already know how to get this thing on the ground. The new challenge you have with this airplane, however, which makes it a little more exciting than the Anton, is the fact you're longer and it's harder to see over the nose, which makes it a rather interesting experience for those of you who have not tried it yet. And of course, we're going to be landing here at Pahu Mesa, which is a very, very, very short runway, and that makes it kind of fun for us. So we're going to be coming in pretty darn slow. Like I said, 200 is kind of the limit. If you do anything slower than that, we're going to be very miserable on our approach, and that's kind of the fun. Again, trying to balance the need to see with the need to be able to safely get the plane down. Just like the Anton, of course, we're going to be looking to get our speed down below 300 before we start dirtying up the plane here. And again, I'm just taking a look out my wind here, trying to identify where we need to go. It's going to be basically right off my left there, and there it is. Start reducing power a little bit. It takes a long time. One of the great things is we're liquid cooled, so I can slam the radiators closed, and I just slammed all my radiators closed. And the cool thing is, as it reduces power, that's going to keep the engine warm. And you can actually see I'm about 60 Celsius right now in the engine, even though I basically have no power. Pull that nose up a little bit. All we're doing is bleeding off the last bit of power here. Last bit of speed. There we go. You can hear that nice gentle rumble. One of the things I love about this plane is it slips. If we need to lose some altitude in a hurry and without getting our speed up, we can actually slip the plane. Good way to throw off Americans taking pot shots at you also. There we go. Flap set, gear set, ready for the approach. Like I said, you're looking at about 220 to 200 to 220. 200's pretty slow, but it's going to make the last bit of your approach a little bit simpler. Some people like to actually raise their seat up, which is highly recommended. It does make it a lot easier for approach. One of the things you got to remember with this plane, with all of these planes, is it's a plop. That's the best way to describe it. And you've really, really got to make sure that whatever you do, you come as flat as you can. That's one of the things that makes this so challenging. And you can see just how hard it is to see out the top there because we're starting to get a little slow. Push the nose down a little bit just to get a better look at the runway. It looks pretty good to me. Again, about 200 there. Plane is nice and dirty. We want to eliminate any slip we can. Otherwise, it's going to be very complicated to land this thing. It's pretty good there, 200. Now, this plane stops flying. It is not like the Anton. We're here. And all I'm going to do is hold the stick to my chest, and we're just going to bring an absolute minimum braking here. And we are here. A little bit harder than I would like it to be, but not bad. Not bad at all. And that is it. Once we reach our destination, of course, we can slide that sucker. We can slide that sucker over. And we can enjoy our nice, relaxing flight. Enjoy.